Mercedes seems to have been struggling recently because of a lot of things that have been happening with the vehicle's setup. A lot of members of the team have also revealed themselves and mentioned that a lot of issues that Mercedes has been faced with might prove difficult to fix. Recently, there have been a lot of speculations as to if the breakthrough of Mercedes in Miami was a real or false dawn. In this video, we'll be telling you everything you need to know. But before we continue, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button so that you don't miss out on any new videos. Let's get into it. Lewis Hamilton has not performed as poorly as he did recently at one of the most recent Grand Prix events, and his teammate George Russell also did not do particularly well in his most recent race using the Formula One. Both racers did not have an exactly good weekend. But some people might think that George Russell's performance in the most recent race of his affected Lewis Hamilton in a way, making the fans think that Lewis Hamilton's performance was because he was lacking in skill. And this is not the case at all. Mercedes is a pretty good car and can go at extreme speeds with the correct modifications and specifications. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell both have maximum speeds of over 280 kilometers per hour, and this is before speeding along the Tamburello chicane. Because of porpoising, they sometimes develop issues going past 250 kilometers per hour, and apparently Mercedes is not the only car brand that is faced with this issue, but Lewis Hamilton and George Russell seem to be the only ones struggling with this issue. Wolff also talked about Imola, mentioning that George Russell performed exceptionally well, and it was quite impressive to see him finish P4 considering his starting position. He also talked about Lewis Hamilton, stating that he did not have the opportunity to perform optimally. He also talked about his trip to Italy, stating that they had learned a lot ever since their arrival from Italy, setting up simulations to improve the performance of the driver as well as the weekend as conducting experiments in Miami. Wolff has also talked about the things that they can do to improve the car, mentioning the various directions that improvements can go in. Considering that they have modified and brought about new cost caps, this company has to be very careful when it comes to experimenting. And they have to make sure that they do not experiment too much. As you know, it takes a lot of money to experiment on a car and see which modifications will best fit the car, making it perform optimally. Every experiment that is carried out by a car company code causes a lot of money if the experiment does not yield good results. Although they've experimented on their Mercedes, what they have done does not necessarily make the car faster, but at the same time, if they know what does not make the car faster, it's quite insignificant if they do not also have an idea of what does make the car faster. This company known as Mercedes knows that they have a huge challenge on their hands, and they know what it is, but they do not exactly know how to fix this challenge. While testing Alpine for the solution, Mercedes eventually discovered that porpoising could be altered by turning it on and off. Red Bull was also having challenges testing their vehicles, but they found a way to eliminate the porpoising challenge. Comparing Red Bull and Mercedes, Red Bull has something that Mercedes does not have, and this thing comes in the form of a person called Adrian Newey. This guy has been working as a designer since 1970, and he knows what to do when it comes to developing cars, as well as how to fix the errors. He knows what to do and the slight adjustments to make to eliminate porpoising completely. It's because they have an experienced and knowledgeable person named Adrian Newey that Red Bull is able to take on any construction challenge and keep a cool head when facing dangers. Unlike other construction companies, Red Bull also has a huge advantage in the sense that their upgrades are a lot better than most companies. Some of the upgrades that Red Bull possesses are lacking in Mercedes, and the plan of Mercedes to experiment in Miami is not a really solid one. Mercedes' design team performed exceptionally well during the turbo hybrid era, and this was because they were able to examine the available data and make sure that it was incorporated into their vehicles to make them stay ahead. Let's talk about the turbo hybrid era for a bit. During this era, Mercedes managed to improve the design of the engines when the new regulations were introduced. They were also able to improve on their engines consistently and make sure that the development curve was perfect. Because of the new regulations, Mercedes was still lagging behind when compared to Red Bull and Ferrari. And looking at a realistic race, the person in front is always driving the fastest car, and this can be compared to the development curve of the engines. When the race started, Mercedes was not as quick as Red Bull and Ferrari, but they decided to forget about the data that was obtained from the test conducted in Barcelona, and this helped Ferrari and Red Bull in the sense that Mercedes still fell another step behind them. Let's take a look at the Miami track map. If you look at this map delicately, you'd be able to see that porpoising might be a huge challenge for the vehicles because each driver goes at speeds of at least 223 kilometers per hour. And this is just a few kilometers below 250 kilometers per hour, before porpoising makes it difficult to race. These vehicles can reach top speeds of 320 kilometers per hour, and this will take a heavy toll on the Mercedes vehicles. As you know, the maps of racing vehicles are always constructed with sharp corners, and Mercedes is the only company that still has the challenge of porpoising when cutting corners during a race. Lewis Hamilton, as well as George Russell, have mentioned that their confidence in the Mercedes vehicle has significantly dropped because of the challenge they faced while making sharp corners. But looking at it delicately, it is not their fault, and they're not to blame, because driving a vehicle that bounces a lot is very difficult. One thing that might relieve the racers during driving is the presence of the drag reduction system, which makes it more bearable to drive the vehicles. If the same level of porpoising occurred in Miami, that would have been a painful challenge for Mercedes. Toto Wolff confirmed that new and improved components of Mercedes would be brought to Miami during a weekend preview of Mercedes in Miami. He also talked in a way that the fans would be optimistic, and mentioned that whatever happened in the new venue of racing was going to be to test new upgrades. He also mentioned that Lewis Hamilton and George Russell had been training hard in the simulator because of Miami, and he stated that the factories have been working around the clock, making sure that improved components for the next race were being produced. He also stated that the quote, "smooth seas do not make good sailors," came to his mind. And he mentioned that his team was a very hard-working one and had shown a huge amount of resilience. Jack Russell has also talked about the damage his body had sustained because of porpoising. As you know, Formula One racers always have to train hard because of the toll racing takes on their bodies. The health of race drivers also has to be taken into account, because if a driver is not healthy, there's no way such a driver would be able to perform optimally. The Miami Grand Prix was a wonderful one because Mercedes came in with an upgraded car, although their performance was a bit below what the fans had expected. George Russell performed really well in FP2, but Lewis Hamilton a 6th place on the grid instead of his usual performance. To answer your speculations as to whether Mercedes made a breakthrough in Miami, actually, they did. But it was not as much of a big deal as was expected by a lot of fans. What do you think about all this? Drop your answers and thoughts in the comment section below. And before you go, be sure to hit the like button, slap the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos about your favorite racers. Until next time.